Hello everyone. In this short video, I'm going to show you how we can use Oracle Apex to execute command line select, insert, delete, and update SQL statements. So let's do some pre-work here. If you're not familiar with Oracle Apex, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a tour on how to find things such as tables and things of that nature. So I'm going to click on tables, and I can look at my left-hand side, and I can see the tables that I have access to in my schema. Now these are tables I built a little bit ago: department, employees, and another table I have called RH department. We're going to use the employees table and the department table. But let's take a look at the employees table. The employees table just has three different columns in it. They're number, varchar2, and number. Let me show you how we can write a SQL command to execute SQL into this table. Now you might be familiar with SQL scripts. Remember, SQL scripts is when you want to run a group of commands, but if you want to run just one-off commands, you would use SQL commands or what's called the command line. So let's try to insert a record. I'm going to, on purpose, put a couple errors in here. Some will be expected insofar as the error message you're going to get. Some might be unexpected. So we're going to play with this a little bit. Let me put in insert into RH employees. I'll put in 1 Bob and 100 for the department. Now there's some obvious errors in this. So if you click on run, now notice when you click on run, rather than when you're running a script looking at the output for the script, we're just running these as one-off command line commands here, or just one-off SQL statements. So we just kind of run them one at a time. So I'm going to change my command, my SQL command, and say insert into RH employees, values, and I get the message the table review doesn't exist. Okay, that's because it's the wrong table. So if you want to toggle back, be careful. You might have to take your statement and put it to the clipboard, but you could simply just toggle back to Apex and navigate to tables on your right-hand side if you want to take a look at your tables again. So what I'm looking for is obviously called the employees table. So I'm going to go back into SQL commands, and I'm going to change my insert statement to insert a record into the correct table. So let me go back into SQL commands, or what we call the command line, and I'm going to change my script to say insert into employees. There we go. Value is 1 Bob 100. I run this command and I get another error message. I get an integrity constraint. Now that means that I have a primary key or a foreign key violation. So in English, this means that I'm inserting a department for my third parameter into the employees table that does not have a primary key or a value in the department table. So I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a record into the department table first to enforce that foreign key constraint. And now I'll put in department number 100. So that way, when I have this in my departments table, when I insert a record into employees, I can use that department because that foreign key constraint would be satisfied. So I'm going to put in insert into departments, and I'll put in 100 for the department ID and MIS for management information systems. So I am going to run this by clicking on the run button, and we're going to have one problem here. We're seeing that department doesn't exist. No problem. I could always go back to Apex. I can navigate down to tables, and I can look to see what the table is really called. And it's called department, singular, not plural. So I'm going to navigate back to SQL command line. And what I'm trying to show you here is I'm just trying to show you and give you the rhythm and the cadence of putting, of writing SQL statements. In real life, this is what you're doing. You're writing statements, you're debugging them, you're navigating away, looking at tables, going back in. So I'm trying to give you not just the instructions on SQL, but really just to kind of navigate back and forth between different areas of Apex. All right, anyway, so here we go. Insert new departments. 100 MIS. Now I'm missing something, aren't I? So let me change this to insert into department values and then 100 MIS. This should work just fine. So see how I debugged that? I tried to insert something into employees. I had the wrong table name. I was able to resolve that. Then I noticed I had a foreign key constraint. So what I had to do is I had to insert a record into my department table. So, that way when I insert a record into my employee table, if I use department 100, it already exists. And you should know how foreign keys work by now. I just want to show you that error message. So anyway, now with that foreign key constraint taken care of, at least with department 100, I'm free to insert records into my employees table. So we're going to say 1 employee Bob and employee 100. This should work just fine because 100 was just inserted into department. So as long as I don't have a foreign key error or a foreign key constraint error or a primary key constraint error, everything should be fine. So I'm going to put in for employee 2, I'll insert Cassie, and I'll look on the bottom, the results, 1 row inserted. Everything looks good. So let me insert a 3rd row, and since I said we're doing the cadence of the work here, we're just going to insert that as well. And I get, let me make that 3 there. There we go. So we don't have a primary key constraint. So that way we should have 3 records. Notice for the results, I got 1 record inserted. Good. Okay. So we inserted 3 just quick lines or 3 lines of data or records into the employee table. Now we can just simply select them. Why? Because of course we can look. So let me select start from employees, and you're going to see the results on the bottom. See how quick this is? What we're doing is we're just using SQL statements really quickly to modify data. This is how it works in the real world too. You just kind of, do a lot of selects and then you do your updates, your deletes, or what have you. So let me change this now, and just for grins, let me just issue an update. So we'll set the name equal to something different. Like employee number 1 looks like it's got the name Bob. Let's change it to like Robert, because Robert is the real name for Bob. If you're named Bob or Rob, you probably know that. So let me set the name for employee number 1. So it would be update employee, set employee name equal whatever value you want to specify, and then you put in the where clause, where emp equals, in this case, 1. Let me fix that there. Emp equals 1, and I need to change Bob to Robert before I actually execute this. So this looks better. So I should be able to click and run, and I should update, or the SQL should update employee number 1. It should set the employee name equal to Robert. 1 row updated. Doesn't show me the row though, so I could write a select statement to see it. In real life, you're probably going to have a lot of these commands like on the clipboard, doing a lot of copying and pasting, and you'll also save a lot of these commands too. In this case, let's just take a look at what we have for employees just to make sure that Bob is now Robert, and he is. So all is great with the world. So let me just make one more change here, and let's execute a delete statement. Let's get rid of a row here. So remember to do that. You execute or write a SQL delete statement, and you should know the syntax by now. So I'm quickly just going to enter in 1 line, delete from employees, and we'll put in, need to spell it correctly first. That looks better. Delete from employees, and we're going to put in where emp ID equals, and then whatever emp ID I want to delete. So before we delete this, these deletes are fairly permanent for now. Later in your database career, you might learn, or you will learn about transactions. So when you learn about transactions, you're going to learn that sometimes when you write SQL statements, you can actually roll back your changes. But for now, these are permanent changes. Before you know about transactions, when you delete something, it is really gone. So anyway, let's take a look to make sure we got just 2 records in our employee table, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here. So let me just quickly look to see what I got on my employee table. So I can just do like a select star from employees just to see that. So the results are going to be predictable. We're going to see 2 records in our employee table because we just deleted the third record, or employee number 1. That's all I had for your demo. What we did is we logged into Apex. I showed you how you can look at the tables that you're modifying, and then we toggled back between SQL command and other table functions. Thank you. Have a great day.